Hello, dear viewers. I wasn't going to go live till the abortion debate. So that's in about, if you're here for the abortion debate, that's in about 30 minutes, okay? We are going to be hosting that. It'll be a one-on-one between Dispel and a gentleman by the name of Joshua, and we're going to go through that. Should be an interesting time. But I'm going live right now because we have some breaking news. In DC, 2 National Guard service members have been shot. There's mixed reporting on whether or not they're in critical condition or they're deceased. We don't know yet. We also have reports that the suspect is in custody, but we don't know much of the details yet. And I wanted to talk a little bit about not so much the event itself, even though that is horrific. And I'm praying for the families and the victims in this case. But I wanted to go over a little bit and talk about something that happens every time, an increasing frequency. Not frequency, I'm sure, but increasing intensity. Whenever something like this happens, whenever there is a shooting, whenever there is an attack, whenever there is some sort of terrible event that occurs, there's always this reaction, and I hate it. I hate it. And I want to talk about it because I think it's worth discussing. So let me just give you one example. And this isn't the only example, right? And there's others. But let's talk about this guy. Let me bring him up on the screen. Hold on. Buzz Patterson. Okay. Husband, dad, speaker, author, whatever, I don't give a shit. 500,000 followers. And after this event, this is his pinned tweet, so he's proud of this tweet. Okay. After this event, where, again, 2 National Guardsmen had just been shot in DC. We don't know why. We don't know motivation. We don't know who did it. We have an alleged picture of the shooter, but we don't know anything about him yet. There's been no reporting. We have no information, basically. This gentleman, and I use that term very loosely here, blames Senator Mark Kelly and says this: Senator Mark Kelly got his wish. They're gunning down guard guys in D.C. Congrats, traitor. 18 minutes ago, he says this: seditious Democrats have awoken a previously silent group of millions of veterans. You're not going to mess with our military and our successors in uniform. Bad move, Democrats. Him replying to Alyssa Slotkin: stop it. Have you no shame? Your video did this. Resign immediately. Replying to Sarah Rose: she wants this, right? Replying to Ken Dillon, and a tweet about this Ken guy, saying these people are despicable, blah, 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 over and over and over and over again, where people are going out and using this event to weaponize against whoever their political enemy might be. No matter how tenuous the connection, no matter how much sense it makes, because how would you blame Mark Kelly for this? Mark Kelly, we had a debate about this on my show Monday, was one of the guys who said that you should disobey unlawful orders, okay? And made that ad with Senator Slotkin and a few others, lawmakers. These people, and I use that term very loosely, okay, are trying to use this event and connect it to the shooting today in Washington, D.C. with no facts, no evidence, no information, pure, raw, tribalistic bullshit. And this is just one person with, again, 500,000 followers, and there are many more people doing this. I see this all over my timeline. Engaging in this ghoulish behavior, calling for civil war. Here, let me see if I can find that tweet. Same guy. Hold on. Here it is. We're in a civil war, folks. It's turned from cold to hot. Gird your loins. Okay. These people are your enemy. Do you understand that? I hope, dear viewer, that you do. I hope you understand and know that Buzz Patterson and people like him are your enemy. They want you to be violent, go out there, have a riot, go out there, harm your neighbor, go out there, do violence, etc. They're ginning this up. They're giving you the justification, saying, the Democrats are coming to kill you, so you have to kill them first. That is the implication of what they're saying. That is what they are doing right now. Okay? They are your enemy. They want a war because they want to tweet about it on Twitter. They want to sit on their social media perch away from anything, any of the fighting, any of the actual action, right? And they want to use you for content. They want to weaponize you against whatever political bugaboo they happen to be have in their craw, right? Stuck in their craw. They are your enemy. Do not listen to these people. We are not, and I want to repeat this, we are not in any state of war. We are not anywhere close to a state of war in America. We are not anywhere close to anything regarding a civil war, whether that's cold or whether that's hot. Okay? We're just not there. Are we fractured as a nation politically? Sure. But that is a fundamentally different thing, a fundamentally different claim. And I just wanted to go on here today and talk a little bit with you about how you can recognize when people are doing this type of behavior and how you can arm yourselves against this type of behavior. First and foremost, when you see someone blame an entire group for the actions of one member of that group, or especially when we don't even know what groups the person who did the violence is a member of, okay? When they sans any information, will paint with the broadest brush possible and say, this entire group is responsible for the actions of this individual. That person, whoever it is, left or right, whatever, is doing something that is dishonest. They are being dishonest. And they want to use the sins of one to contaminate all. And you see this happen all the time with big or small things, right? But it's especially pernicious when it's events like these, when they're breaking news events, when they are about people who have been killed. And in this case, these two poor National Guardsmen, I don't know if they're killed yet or just in critical condition. Again, the reporting on this is mixed. When you have people go out and try to do this, recognize that they have an agenda that does not include your well-being, does not include any attempt for honesty or accurate portrayal of information. That's not their goal. That's not what they want to do. They are trying to weaponize an event, and it could be anything. And you have to understand, any major world event or local event, they will use, or yeah, I'll just go with world event too. They will spin it and try to use it and try to shoehorn any information, and no matter how tenuous a connection, right? They will try to shoehorn that in and paint it as if these are my political enemies' faults. And we see this playing out right now all over Twitter with people like Buzz Patterson, traitor to America, trying to paint the DC shootings as the fault of what they call the seditious six. which is those 6 senators who told servicemen and intelligence community to do their damn jobs and disobey an unlawful order, which is, again, as I've repeated, something that military members, at least, I can't speak for the intelligence community, but at least military members got training to do once every 6 months or so, and especially in basic, is you don't follow unlawful orders. You are not allowed to do that you have a duty to disobey in that case. But again, they're out there painting this and trying to say this is the fault of the seditious 6 or their political enemies. Here's a good example. Another example for you. This is Pisco. We all know Pisco, okay? Pisco tries his best. He says this: being angry at these lying MAGA freaks is the correct response. Do not give them 1 inch. Increase your opposition to their deceptions and delusions. Ridicule them relentlessly. And Tim Pool comes out and says he's on the side of the shooter. Because remember, if you push back against anything they say, you're an enemy, and to be painted an enemy, and they're going to lump you in with the enemy, right? This is something that happens constantly, all the time. Let me give you more examples. And I'm just going through the timeline here. I'm not going to scroll through my timeline in real time, just in case. But here we go. Here's Vance Langman. Okay. Says apparently this is a photo of the radicalized leftist. And remember, we don't know. We have no information on this guy. Okay. We don't know who did it or why. There's been no reporting on this. No official reports. Nothing. We have no information. He comes out. This is a photo of the radicalized leftist who killed 2 National Guards in Washington, D.C. today. The radical Democrats have blood on their hands. This person, this Vince Langman, again, 500,000 followers. Okay, so you guys see that? 500,000 followers. He's not your ally. He is your enemy. He is an enemy to the American people. He is spreading bogus information as fact. We don't know. It could turn out that this guy is some kind of radical leftist, but we don't know. He could be a Muslim. He could be conservative Muslim. We don't know. We have no idea. Hell, he could just be some crazy guy who's off his meds. We don't know. We have no idea. But that's the game, right? They take a powerful event. And what I mean by powerful event is something that catches a lot of eyes really quick. Everyone wants to know what's going on. Everyone's tuning in, okay? And they try whole cloth to spin a narrative out of nothing in order to paint their political, paint it in a way that's helpful to their political goals. People who do that, I want you to understand, they're a traitor to the American people. They are your enemy. They're trying to get you to believe something that is not true. They're trying to get you to believe something that we have no idea the information is, right? It is something that you need to be aware of in these situations and push back against strongly. Check if he's even American. Unfortunately, he is American. I did check. Mad Honeybee says, I feel like they all do it, which is why I dislike all of them on all sides. LOL, Wick's the only cool one. I try to be cool. Yeah, I do check if everyone is American now. Or at least not Canadian, okay? Anything but Canadian is fine. I don't know what to do about this. Other than just let you guys know what is happening. To point it out when it happens. To, again, showcase this and say, this is what they're doing. This is the formula. This is the pattern. This is the playbook. It's going to keep happening. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep lying to you. And I want to be clear. These are lies, what they're doing right now. They are lying to you. At what point? Here. At what? Let me just say this. At what point do you stop believing them? At what point do you stop trusting information for people who constantly lie to you? And remember, these are the same group of people who lied, and we went over this yesterday, right? Who lied about that immigrant who was getting deported by ICE or whatever in a headlock by ICE about him having a knife and him being a pedo. They just continuously make up lies and shove it down your throat, and you gobble it up. At what point do I just say you're retarded? Like, you're either retarded or you don't mind them lying because it serves your political goal. And you're willing to just swallow their lies because it serves your political needs. And if you are that second group, if you are the kind of person who just is willing to continually boost these people who are continually lying to you, continually lying to the American people, you are an evil person. You are. You are an evil person. Now, most of what I see is the right doing it. But the left is doing a similar thing. Again, before we know any facts, before we know any information, I've seen a couple leftists be like, oh, this is Trump's fault. Trump is to blame for this entirely. We don't know. No one knows. No one knows what's happening here. So if you're out there, the body's not cold, and you're painting a narrative saying, this is a seditious six's fault. We need to lock those Democrats up. It's the Democrats who killed those young men. You are evil. You are trying to use actions of a single individual. You paint a whole group as responsible for those actions, and then you're trying to have something happen to your political enemies who are not connected to this at all. No, Cal Mike says, place the blame where it belongs. Erica Kirk. I am waiting for someone to blame Assad. I'm waiting for someone to blame the Jews. I've seen everyone be blamed. I'm waiting for the Jews to get blamed. It's happening. It's coming. You know it is. The abortion debate's in about 10 minutes. 15 minutes or so. So the abortion debate 6:30. I went live a little early because I wanted to rant about this and get it off my chest before we have an abortion debate. Okay. Sorry if this is a little unhinged. I just have strong feelings about people who paint whole groups as responsible for individual actions. I don't like it. It's the same people who blame, who will blame all black people for the actions of one or two black evil people, right? Or who will blame all Jews for the actions of Netanyahu, or who will blame all Palestinians for the actions of Hamas, or who will blame all Americans for the actions of Trump, or who will blame all Germans for the actions of Hitler, right? People are responsible for what they do. Groups are not responsible for the actions of individuals within those groups. And it is a mistake to hold that worldview. Today's been rough, gang. Today's been rough. I'm not gonna lie. This abortion debate that's coming up in about 15 minutes here almost got aborted. It almost didn't happen. I had one of the individuals unfortunately canceled last minute. But luckily, Sarah, if you're watching this, Sarah, thank you, by the way, from the Raging Tomato. You guys should go check her out on her channel, right? She usually streams much later than I do. So yeah, after you're done watching me, go watch her. She helped me and got me a substitute last minute. So thank you, Sarah. I do appreciate that. You saved the debate. Hooray! Hooray! I don't know why everyone wants to debate abortion now, but everyone wants to debate abortion now, so we're going to have another debate. Also, gang, speaking of setting up debates, Friday, okay, Soy Pill is coming on my show, and he wants to argue that Trump is responsible for the DC shootings, and I need someone to argue against him. If that's you, when you're out there and you think that statement by Soy Pill, that Trump is at least partially responsible for these shootings, if you disagree with that and you want to argue with Soy Pill live on my channel, reach out. It's last minute, I know, but we gotta get these things going, right? Bill Bradley says, did something happen on abortion that has made people want to debate it more? Did I miss something? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know why everyone's wanting an abortion debate, but Dispel, I should say, came to me and was like, hey, can you set up an abortion debate for me? And I was like, okay, I guess I can. I haven't had an abortion debate on this show in forever. It's been a while, like at least a year. So I figured, why not? Yeah, it's been at least a year, why does? Then we've had an abortion debate? Hold on. When do you think we've had an abortion debate that's sooner, within the year? Like which time? No, it's been at least a year, if not longer. The last time I could think having a serious abortion debate was near where they ended Roe v. Wade. Mr. Wise Guy Plays for $5. Destiny and Erudite just debated this one chick on abortion very recently. Is that it? Is that why? Maybe. Yeah, major debates with Leela Rose. Who's Leela Rose? Okay, I guess I confess I didn't watch those debates. I don't know. Is Leela Rose a big person, like a big anti-abortion person? I don't know who she is. Life at Conception pro-lifer? Oh, is she like a big podcaster or something? Oh, very big in that space? Maybe. Oh, Maybe. Are you guys excited for tonight? I hope you are. I hope you are. Does everyone have a good plan for tomorrow for their Thanksgiving? Are they going to spend time with family? I hope you are. I hope you have some friends or family to spend time with. Did you guys like... What are your opinions on eggnog? I like eggnog. I think eggnog's good. It's delicious. But I can't have too much of it. It loses its charm. But if I have it once or twice a year, or even hell, once or twice a month, if I had just a glass of eggnog, it would be delicious. But eggnog is one of those things where, like, if you... Because I've tried, because when I when I first moved out of my house, right? Well, my parents' house, I should say. Way back in the day, 20 years ago, right? And I was living on my own. I was like, I'm an adult. I can get eggnog whenever I want. Because I used to love eggnog at Thanksgiving, but my family would never buy eggnog outside of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I was like, I can get eggnog whenever I want. And so I got a lot of eggnog. But after, like, it lost its charm after a while. And I was like, okay, this is why they only got it on Christmas and Thanksgiving, is because it stays good at the Christmas and Thanksgiving if you keep it to, like, a couple times a year. But we need a federal eggnog ban. You don't like eggnog? What's wrong with eggnog, bro? Young Wick living the life, chugging eggnog 24/7. Look, when you are outside of other people's rules and you are living alone for the first time or living on your own and you're like, I'm an adult. I can do X, Y, and Z and no one can stop me. You realize soon why they had the restrictions in the first place, right? At least I did. I was like, oh, this is why. This is why they told me X, Y, and Z. I get it now. There's a few things that my parents used to tell me that I used to be like, oh, shut it, Mom. Shut it, Dad. I'm an adult now. And then I'm like, oh, no, you're right. You correct. I should have listened. Feel like a lot of life's that way. The puzzle pieces snap into place. True. Hexually active. That's a funny name. But yeah. That's the content we got coming up. Friday. No stream tomorrow, but Friday we are going to have a stream. We weren't, but I think that we gotta cover this. So Friday we're gonna be having a debate on the National Guard shooting. So tune in 6 p.m. Eastern Friday for that. And hopefully in about 9 minutes, the abortion people will get here and we'll talk about abortion. Why says to make MR Hammer debate Kung Fu Joe on evolution. Why do I want an evolution debate? I have no interest in an evolution debate. There are a couple of debates you probably won't see on my channel. You probably won't see a flat earth debate on my channel. Probably not going to happen. I have no interest in debating flat earth or listening to a debate about flat earth. It leaves me cold, gang. I don't care. Evolution's another one that you're probably never going to hear a debate about on my show. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, I don't care. I don't know. Here's the thing. Part of what I love about what I do is I get to decide what I want to cover and what I don't. I get to decide what topics I want to talk about and what I don't. And no one can tell me what to do. I love it. It's great. It's my best job ever. Look, I've had better paying jobs. Much better paying jobs in some cases. But I had to do stuff I didn't want to do, right? I had to do stuff I didn't want to do. I didn't get to set my schedule. I didn't get to choose my topics. I didn't get to choose what I did, right? Not that I had topics in these other jobs, right? But you know what I mean. With this, at least, I can just say, I don't want to do it. And then not do it. It's great. It's wonderful. You missed the vegan debates? I've had a couple vegan debates. It's funny. NoCal Mike says, we need the next trial of a fellow Twitch poll streamer. Who are you putting on trial? Who do you think we should try? And for what crime? I don't know, gang. I think that it's interesting to see how people respond to events. It is interesting to see the people. There are people in my comments, and I'm just killing time till I get here, gang. So we got like 5 minutes. But there are people in my comments saying that I'm just as bad as people like Buzz Patterson because I'm calling them out. They're saying that I'm engaging in the same kind of behavior that Buzz Patterson is. My audience, I will ask you, not that you're unbiased, right? Because you watch me. You obviously at least hate me or love me. I'm not sure. Do I engage in that kind of thing? I don't feel I do. I feel like I'm pretty good about covering bad behavior on both sides of the aisle. Oh, I'm worse? Why does? How am I worse? But yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good at saying, hey, Democrats are doing this, this is wrong. Hey, Republicans are doing this, this is wrong. Pretty good. Maybe you can say I'm not perfect at it. There. How do I define what's wrong? I have a complex moral system, and if you violate my moral system, I will tell you that you violated my moral system and why you shouldn't violate my moral system. So, for example, if you, let's say, I don't know, kill 10 guys, and I'll be like, you shouldn't have killed those 10 guys. That was bad. Killing is wrong. Murder is wrong. And you'd be like, well, you killed that one guy that one time. And I'll be like, that was on the dance floor. He didn't die. I just danced better than he did. Okay. AKA Batozai, what is there to debate on the National Guard shooting? Okay, AKA Batozai. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? And this is the debate that I'm setting up for Friday. Trump is responsible for the shooting of the National Guard today. Do you disagree or agree with that? If you disagree, you can come debate Soy Pill about it Friday. Wick, who is better, Big Bird or Barney? Big Bird. Roxfist says, speaking of Wick dancing, does line dancing count as dancing? It is the worst kind of dancing. And when I say line dancing, what I mean is those dancing to those songs that tell you what to do. Like crisscross, now jump to the left, now jump to the right, now jump to the left, now spin around, and I do a twerk it, girls, or whatever. Look, I take enough orders, and this is what I used to say when people ask me when I was in the military, because they asked me a lot. They're like, why aren't you dancing this song? I'm like, I take orders for a living. I don't want to take orders on the dance floor. Okay. Headless Chicken says, my problem with you, Wick TV, is that you seem like you would be the type of person who would get mad at those helping slaves escape from their captors because it's illegal. No. What? That's a crazy thing to say. What leads you to believe that? Anyway, I got the debaters here, so I'm going to bring them on. Hey, you're live, by the way.
Hi, Wick.
Hey.
How you doing? How's it going?
Could you, we're here. I just went live a little early to rant about the National Guard shooting stuff, so I got that out of my system. Okay.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty
yeah,
wild.
yeah, it's a breaking news kind of day. Okay. We got
All right.
a VTuber, beautiful, wonderful, and we got a new gentleman here,
Stream Rift, Josh Stacy.
Josh Stacy. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that doesn't mind going by his name.
Fair enough.
Pleasure to meet you. I would prefer to go by Dispel. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I get it.
My
You
identity,
don't
yeah.
want to show your
Right.
face or your name or anything about you. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
tell you guys how this is going to work, and then we'll get into it. Okay, right? So I will introduce the topic. I mean, I'll say hi to my audience. I've already been saying hi to my audience, so that part won't take long. And then we'll just give you guys brief, and I stress this, concise opening thoughts. Tell people who you are, what you do, why they should listen to you, and then what are your thoughts on the subject at hand. And then we'll get into the back and forth. If at any time you feel like you can't get a word in edgewise, you're being talked over, etc., get my attention and I'll make sure that you get room to speak. Now, there's only 2 of you, so I'm going to give you a lot more leeway than I normally would on these panels. And yeah, are there any questions before we begin?
No, this is intimate.
Not that intimate, man. We got,
It's far more intimate than a lot of the other panels you have.
I suppose. But please try not to make it too intimate. Okay, with that said, or we might need an abortion later. Anyway, today, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, we are going to be debating the legality of abortion. Should abortion be legal in the United States of America? Why or why not? We have some wonderful guests today. A special shout out to Josh here, who is willing to come last minute to talk with us. So I do appreciate that. And thank you to Sarah, who helped set this up. I do appreciate that as well. I have links to all these individual stuff in my channel. Please give them a follow, subscribe, etc. after we're done here. Okay, with that, we're going to give the mic first to Dispatch here. Dispatch, we can't see you anymore. You just made it so we can only
You've
see each other.
infinity screened us.
Uh-oh. I'm going to have to... I thought I was in studio
This is
mode.
why I did
I'm so
this.
sorry.
Why? I had fun.
Okay,
There
no,
you
it's all
are.
fine. Okay, Dispatch, we're going to give you the mic first. Should abortion be legal? Go ahead.
Sure. So I'm Dispel. You can find me on Twitch at Dispel Marketable Streams, on YouTube, Dispel Marketable Archive. My position is basically that I'm fine with abortion. Obviously, we should have some legal boundaries to prevent any sort of malfeasance, any sort of negligence. And basically, my argument is going to be stemming from the value that I think families are best organized when the mother wants and values their child. I think most other circumstances outside that lead to just poorer outcomes.
Okay.
And so we should prioritize that.
Well, thank you for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Next up, first-time guest on my show, Josh Steamrift. Go ahead.
Josh Stacy, that's fine. We're trying. So Stream Rift is sort of, there's lots of other Josh Stacys out there. I'm the only Stream Rift. My position on abortion's a little bit more interesting in the sense of I did run for public office last year. Nevada, there was a lot of argument about abortion, which I think was kind of stupid. And I'll explain why. But in brief, I don't actually think that there's debate about whether or not abortion should be legal, on the sense of virtually everybody, no matter how ideologically driven they are, the most pro-lifers will usually do a carve out easily for the mother's life, if mother's life's at stake. And in cases of incest and SA, we'll use some appropriate language in case I don't know, I don't want to get anybody banned here, but most religious ideologically driven folks are not going to push back on those. But that's the argument a lot of times people will make. Fact of the matter is, most people are also uncomfortable with the other end of the spectrum, which is an abortion at, call it 8.5 months, 9 months, right before birth. And so most of this debate actually is about between those two lines here. My position is that humans shouldn't be killed. I don't know how abortion factors in with birds and suits, but hopefully we'll get into that a little bit more here. So Dispel, back to you.
Okay, so you think that it should be banned up until about? Do you have like a time frame, viability?
So so we'll start at the very beginning. So we'll define the tails of the spectrum. On the one hand, we have people who say like every sperm is sacred. Okay, I'm not in that camp. The other end, I think, is, up until the baby goes through the vaginal canal, then you can have an abortion. A lot of people are uncomfortable with 8.5-month abortions as well. So my line is probably around 6 weeks. And the premise on that's real simple. The arguments that it's a clump of cells, I think, have some argument for a little while, but I think it's around 6 weeks. They have web fingers and web toes. And at that point, I don't think you should kill something that has human DNA and has web fingers and web toes. I think it's killing a life. And I hear people make arguments, well, it's justified because of this and because of that and whatever else. My worldview is you're killing a life. And for folks that want to split hairs on it, you're stopping a life that otherwise would have grown. And frankly, there's a million ways to prevent unwanted pregnancy. And so, like, for example, this whole rhetoric just gets weaponized. So people will say things like a forced pregnancy, like that's almost implying somebody's endorsing SA, and that's not at all the argument.
Right.
But you asked me a direct question. Did I answer your question clearly?
Yeah, I think so. So you're comfortable with having consequences for both healthcare providers and women who seek abortions up to 6 months, or the general types that sort of arise since then, right? Because 6 months,
I think
day
you're
or
making
two
some-
past, it's
okay.
like a day or two. Like, it's kind of hard to know exactly when an abortion starts in a patient. So like, you wanna have consequences past the 6 months mark.
Hold
I
on.
don't
What?
think
Did you not say 6
what I
weeks?
said.
Did I mishear that?
6 weeks.
I'm at 6
yes.
weeks.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
I was okay. So you mean 6 weeks? Okay, got you. Carry on, please. I was just missing.
Well, and I also want to be clear. My view on what I think it is versus what I think is marketable as public policy are also two different things.
Right.
But if we're sticking with where I think it's valued, I think you can make the clump of cells argument when it's 4 cells. At 6 weeks, that argument's toast.
And no exceptions for rape or incest.
Why would you think I think that?
Well, I'm just curious. I'm asking.
Right, and I understand that. I specifically mentioned the carve-outs that you're mentioning in my very brief opening. And so I guess why I'm pushing back is I've already made a position, and I'm assuming you're listening, and that's fine. Maybe you're not. That's fine. I don't mind repeating myself. It's fine. But you're trying to pivot into an argument that I've already addressed head on. So I think you're pointing to less than 1% of actual abortion activity.
Right. So no exceptions for rape or incest. I mean, I'm just curious.
You're retarded.
Right?
No,
man.
hold on, just real quick.
Whoa,
Just real
it's
quick.
been like 20 minutes. Can we relax on calling people retarded?
This
is why people don't want to have
I
abortion
said
debates
something I
anyway.
didn't.
Because people think that everything is settled and they don't want to have conversations.
Yeah,
anymore.
hold on, just real quick, please, both of you. Okay, so to be clear, as I understand it, and Josh can correct me if I'm wrong, but Josh thinks that there should be carve-outs for rape, threats to the life of the mother, but that sans those carve-outs, assuming those carve-outs don't exist, then anything after 6 weeks, he personally does not think would claim that the abortion is actually murder after those 6 week period. Is that an accurate retelling of your position, Josh?
Yeah, I'll just tighten it up. But yeah, like the point is, so any type of assault, incest, or life of a mother, those are automatic. Nobody's fighting over that. I don't know why people even bring that up. So to not only am I saying I think that those are reasonable carve outs. I'll drill into it even more. I think it's a stupid point, but since you bring it up, I'm going to pay you the respect of elaborating on it. The Mormon faith is very, very, very anti-abortion, to the point of, if I were to give someone a ride to, let's say I was an active Mormon, I gave somebody a ride to an abortion, just giving them a ride is excommunicatable. So that's where they sit on it. And they also say life of a mother is at stake, sexual assault, or incest. Those are automatic carve outs. Those should be allowed. So since you bring it up, I'm going to dig it in on you, Mr. Birdman. Why is this a topic for you? And have we covered sufficiently the fact that I don't know anyone seriously arguing that those shouldn't be exemptions?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we do live in a country where people are fighting over these exceptions, where they do think that it is untenable, right? They'll cite, declining birth rates in America. They'll say, hey, like, it might suck to be forced to have the child of your rapist, but it's got to happen. And currently, there are organizations fighting in court to maintain that same standard that you have now towards fetal viability, which is about 21, 24 weeks. But yeah, 6 weeks is about a third
16
of that.
to 20, but okay.
I mean, fetal viability, it really depends on like the technological progress, the wealth of the country, how available the technology to keep a child is. And I don't even think we should be prioritizing 24 weeks. Like, I think it's really early, because most people who are born then, they really suffer throughout their life. Again, this goes back to my main point that we should prioritize mothers who want their kid, who think that they have the resources to take care of it, who think that they've got a stable life to pass on their information. And, it should be up to them, right? If they want to pass the child on to an organization like a foster care system, a family member, that's fine.
So if it's inconvenient to the mother, they should be able to kill it?
I think if the mother thinks that they don't have the resources necessary to take care of a child, they should have options to get rid of it, right? Obviously, we're going to have to put a limit on the top.
I have to go back. You've been fighting on this hill that rapists should have the victims go full term. And you're saying there are some, let me finish. There are some fringe groups arguing for almost anything at this point. And I'll give you, there are some, we'll call it pro-life absolutists, purists, however you want to put it. That's at the far end tail of the spectrum on this. So I need you to either, one, acknowledge that that is a less than 1% of the issue that most pro-choicers don't even fight on, or two, explain how I'm wrong. And until you do that, I can't go forward with anything else. But
I mean, you and I agree that we should have exceptions for rape, incest, and abuse, right? What we're
so 99% of your opposition.
Hold on, just real quick. Let Parrot. Can you define what you think the? Can you repeat that? Is what I'm asking. Parrot, go ahead.
Right, we agree that there should be exceptions for rape, incest, or abuse. What we're disagreeing on over is the fetal viability, right? You think it should be 6 weeks. I think it depends on the technological and socioeconomic status of the hospital where it's being taken place. Generally, it seems to be between 21 weeks and 24 weeks.
I don't even like the viability standard, so I don't know why you're bringing that up.
I mean, the viability standard is why I think a lot of liberals have given up on this, because it kind of sucks to argue an arbitrary number that's going to shift with more technological developments. And what I'm saying is, I don't think that's an appropriate border for us to set up our argument. It should be prioritizing the value that homes, families are more stable with a mother who wants and loves their kid.
So just to be clear for my edification, Parrot, what you're saying, or I'm sorry, I keep calling you Parrot, Dispel, what you're saying is that if the mother does not want the baby at 8.5 months, they should be allowed to abort it?
I mean, 8.5 months is pretty late, right? You don't need an NICU to take care of a baby like that.
Okay,
So
when
they
when do you think that we should make it illegal, if anywhere, for the mother to say, I want an abortion?
Do you want my actual perspective? Because
Yes, I want your actual perspective. Yes, this is what we're debating today.
The federal regulators that go to hospitals to make sure that hospitals are clean and sanitary, people are washing their hands, they should assess the materials on hand at hospitals and determine when it should be. Right? Because if you've got a rural hospital with no NICUs, I don't think people should be having abortions there. Or they shouldn't be having like early term
I agree
births there. Right? Okay, so you agree.
that they shouldn't have abortions there. Yes.
I mean, most abortions happen in like abortion clinics, centers, stuff like that.
I was
But if
agreeing
you're
because I
going to be
think
delivering a baby that's early, it should be based on the resources available inside the hospital, and there should be some sort of federal, local regulator, advisor, regulatory check who can look at the resources available to the hospital and see if they are ready to take care of a baby who is born early. And if the mother doesn't want it, yeah. Unfortunately, like around 24 weeks, 25 weeks, yeah, we're gonna have to put a week, like a limit on it, like a prosecutable limit.
You have a response to this, Josh, or anything?
I mean, I think it's a pretty fantastical position. I believe he's articulating it well. It seems like we are turning a moral argument into a question of resources and opinion. My line in the sand is it's a human life. I don't think we should kill it. I'm willing to, in good faith, when I came in here, I already rattled off points I would concede, the points that people bring up, the edge cases they argue around. I hear two premises. One premise he's saying is if the mother doesn't feel like she can give the child a life, which is usually code for if the mother doesn't want to go down in lifestyle, that's how they actually define it, then they should be able to kill a human. And it's not like they just randomly became pregnant. We're 99% of abortions are 100% elective. A lot of women have had multiple. This isn't a surprise. This is completely avoidable. This is something that says, because, and I'm even willing to say two people made a decision, then one person has their life taken. And I don't think that's a fair equation. And I think that the threshold of saying families are best organized when the mother wants and values their child, I agree. That's why I don't think you should have sex unless you're ready to have a kid.
Yeah. But, we kind of can't ban people from having sex. And the best alternative for that is giving mothers the freedom to abort their baby
offspring
up until fetal viability.
Okay. So how is it good for society that we allow mothers to electively kill their spawn? By the way, as it sits right now, fathers have no input in this. Even if they say, I'll take the baby as soon as it's born, you waive all spousal support, I will take care of it, I will love my kid, I want to give it the best chance. Fathers get zero say in any of that right now. Meanwhile, the mother can put the guy on child support and go all the way to getting him locked up and really have him by the balls, but he has no say in whether or not she has it. She can literally kill it. And I mean, do you see that there's an imbalance there?
I mean, do you think that there's an imbalance in like sex? Do you think men and women are different?
What does that have to do with the legal imbalances around childbirth?
Right. So different people, different abilities need to be regulated differently.
I don't like government or regulation in general. So you already have an uphill battle on that one.
Yeah, but we got to have a little bit of regulation.
I don't disagree with you. I believe government is both necessary and evil. Anarchists just believe it's evil. So I'm on team, it's necessary.
Right. And the regulation that you prefer is actually banning it or imprisoning women who take it, imprisoning healthcare providers who provide the
No, you're throwing
care.
arguments on that I didn't make. And it's probably because you can't actually just engage with what I'm saying and build from there.
I mean, yeah. I think it's fine that women have this option and that men have no choice in it. Yeah, they can tell the woman that they impregnated, "Hey, I think you should keep it." And I think the woman who's going to have to carry it from 6 months to 8 months, 9 months is going to ultimately have the final say. Like, if a man is going to leave a woman because she's going to keep it, like, fine, yeah, you're free to do that, and
No, that's
she's
not the
free
point.
to decide whether or not she's ready to take it to term, 6 to 8, 9 months.
Yeah, so do you understand that there's a lot of men that would like to raise their children, and
Yeah, they can
women,
adopt.
let me finish. Once the children are born, if they get to that stage, and as we're discussing, sometimes they don't even get that far, then the court system gets to beat them around and push the dads out of the life. So you're saying we care about outcomes, right? We should have families that are organized around mothers that want their children, but it sounds like we have a lot of recreational sex, which is fine, whatever. I'm a freedom guy. If folks want to do that, do that. But then when a baby happens, it's the men have no say in what happens. Women have complete control up into killing a child, and then we have to act like it's some uh, moral positive that we allow women to kill children. I feel free to push back on any of that. I don't see how you get to that.
Right, so you understand and you agree with me that families are generally best when the mother wants the kid and believes that they've got the resources available to take
No,
care
I
of it.
think that's a
And what
bunch
you're
of
doing right now is you're complaining that there's a different legal standard between men and women because women have to carry the child and men don't.
no. What I'm saying is that's not the topic of this debate.
Well, it's
Should
abortion.
it be legal or should it not be legal? That is the discussion that I came for.
Right, and you're complaining that men don't have a choice in it. And I'm saying,
That's an
yeah,
interesting use
because
of the
men
word
and women
complain.
are different.
Why are you saying I'm complaining when I'm pointing to facts that are inconvenient for you?
I don't think they're inconvenient at all. The idea that men and women are different, I
The
don't think
idea
that's
that
inconvenient at
women
all.
can kill the offspring and men can't. Men have no input on it, but they will bear the
No, they
financial
definitely have input,
responsibility.
but
Let I
the
finish.
end
Let
is
me
the women.
finish.
Hold on, just
The people who have to
please,
carry it
please,
7,
one at
8
a time.
months.
We can't hear you if you guys are talking over each other. Let Josh finish, and then I'll let you respond. And then I have perhaps a question to get us on a track. I feel like we are not on a track, and we need to be on a track. So, Josh, go ahead, and I'll let Barrett respond.
There's an inherent inequality in the sense that once a sperm hits an egg and is growing inside of a woman, she now holds that man up to accountability, which will include literally the government garnishing wages, taking away professional licenses, locking them up, all of that, and keep them away from their kid, not let them be involved, hold their kid hostage against them. And the father gets no say at all in whether or not the mother gets to kill the child. You dismiss that as complaining, I believe, because society seems to find male suffering uncomfortable. I don't know why you're recasting it again as complaining. We're having a discussion. I'm even giving you freebies here. Go ahead.
So you think that men have no say whatsoever in the framework that I'm proposing? So they
I'm
can't sit
discussing.
down, talk to their significant other, and say, "Hey, I think you should carry to term."
So the current situation is I'm discussing what is now. I'm not even. You haven't laid out
Because
a
it sounds like
framework.
you want to change child support laws, and
Yes.
you're fine with actually the abortion laws that I'm proposing, or the way that
Hold
they've
on,
been
no,
set.
hold on, both of you, please. Parrot, I need you to be very clear because it's not at all clear to the audience, and it's not at all clear to me. What specifically is the law that you're advocating for? What I think it is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would have it on a case-by-case basis where they would evaluate the hospital and make some sort of determination based on the equipment of the hospital when the viability limit is for a fetus. And anything after that limit you would say is off limits, but anything before that limit would be okay. Is that
Yeah, they could do it by county, they could do it by states. Yeah.
okay?
You would
If they've got the
anticipate it being.
resources to take care of a preterm baby, if they've got the resources necessary for a mother to have an early birth, right? Because some women just don't want to carry that weight. They don't want to deal with the cravings. They don't want to deal with the hormone swings for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And I think they should have that freedom, provided that the local infrastructure can accommodate for that.
So my line is 6 weeks. Your line is roughly going to be 16 to probably 20 weeks, depending on the resources available at the local facility. Is that what
Well, I
your
mean, we haven't really
proposal
had
is?
preterm births before 21 weeks. And
No, right.
I'm not a huge fan of preterm births anyways. Like I think we should be on the conservative side and amp it up a little.
Well,
You're right. We
Because
should be on the
generally,
conservative side.
just
yeah,
really
women
clear.
should have the freedom
Just
up to
real,
about like 24-ish months, right?
yeah.
Because most preterm births experience really bad life outcomes.
My what I'm struggling with here, Parrot, is that in your proposed scenario, abortion would be pretty much illegal in a state-of-the-art facility, right, where rich people can go and have medical miracles performed for their offspring. But it would be legal up to maybe, like, I don't know, 5 months in some rural podunk backstreet, right, like clinic that has no like support. It feels like you're setting up a two-tier system for the riches and the poorers, okay, where the rich
Isn't that
people
what we already
are
have?
banned from abortion and the poor people get abortion on
Wick, it's
demand.
This is the liberal position.
It's even better than that. It's a multivariable. It's not even just there's the rich and the poor. Like the rich get the best, of course, because they always do, and the poor get the worst because they do. But if you're somewhere in the middle,
Well, the poor
maybe
have
it's
the
20
option.
weeks instead of 16 weeks.
That's what I really value. The poor have the option.
Don't they have the option of not getting pregnant? Is it still
Well,
a
not
mystery
under
how
your
this
framework.
happens?
Not under your framework. Like if you do get
Under my
pregnant
framework, consent is still
and
important.
maybe like the condom broke, something like that, something happens.
No, let me walk you through this. Let's say the condom broke. Fine. Statistically, there's only a couple of days out of the month anyway. Fine. Let's pretend that the condom broke on the couple of days. Fine. Then there's plan B. You notice the condom broke. You say, well, we're going to do that. Okay. But you say that's not enough. Like and not to mention, there's also abstinence. And there's also not putting the fluids where they go to make the baby. And none of this is secret knowledge. We all know this. So it's a strange argument that the person not the least involved in making the decision is the one that pays with their life, and everyone else gets more or less. No, it's not even everyone else gets a free pass. It's would-be dad or dad gets no input. Mom gets to kill the child, and then the child gets to die. That's
we've already
really
established that.
dark.
Yeah, the man does
That's a
have
really
input. 100%.
that's a really dark scenario.
But
Isn't that
the
dark?
legal framework is obviously different. Yeah, I'm sorry. Life is
Slavery was
dark.
legal. The Holocaust was legal. That's a bad argument.
Yeah. It's
The Mormon
not
Extermination
lots
Act was
of
the law
great
on the
not
books
great
until
things have been
1970.
done for the sake of quote unquote legality. But I think that this is a framework that optimizes and is considerate for not only the freedom of the woman to decide whether or not she's capable of carrying it to term, giving it a good life outcome. That freedom is very important.
I mean, who doesn't like avoiding the consequences of their action?
Christians, I guess. You can't.
Okay,
Christians
okay,
can't.
no,
avoid it.
we're not doing a religious. I know it's an abortion debate, and religion might come into it, but we're gonna stay away from that for now. Let me just ask this, okay? How realistic do you think it is that you can get these laws passed, Mr. Parrott?
I mean, Dobbs was already a step in the direction of particularism rather than this universal, broad sweeping, authoritarian, no, women can't be doing that, it shouldn't be within their purview. How feasible? Yeah, honestly, it's going to have to be like a state-by-state thing or like federal, right? To establish some sort of regulatory agency to make sure that maternity wards are washing their hands, they're delivering babies very well.
Did you read the Dobbs decision?
Did I read the court
Yes.
case?
Did you read
Like
and also
the
did you
entire thing?
understand the Dobbs? Do you understand the framework that the Dobbs decision offered on this topic?
It's something about like invasion of privacy, and effectively what it meant was breaking the former resolution, which was decided with Roe v. Wade, and then sending it down to the states, where states like Oklahoma and Texas implemented, and the authoritarian in me is very impressed with what Texas did, essentially like bounty hunter laws, where they can hunt down women and healthcare providers for going out of state for an abortion, going inside the state for abortion. Very impressive.
But do you understand the concept of federalism?
Yeah, what do you think?
No, I don't think you have any fucking idea what it is, if I'm being honest. But I was being polite. I'd like to know. Do you know
I'm a
what
huge fan
federal
of Switzerland. Yeah, I love Switzerland. It's a
Okay.
federated
I don't
nation.
know
let me
Switzerland, so
rephrase.
maybe you're gonna
Cantons inside
have
of it.
to
Let me
fill me in. I don't know Switzerland's laws, so
This isn't about Switzerland.
It's
I
a
think he's
federated
going in
state as
another
well.
direction.
I'm a big fan of
Holy-
federations.
So no. So the United States is built off of a framework of federalism that was deeply outlined in this document called the Federalist Papers, written by Hamilton and a bunch of others under the name E pluribus. As you may know, in our currency, it says E pluribus unum. Those are not coincidences. The concept that makes the whole nation work together, the whole 250 years or so of legal, like US jurisprudence, rests on what is well explained in the 10th Amendment, but this concept of federalism. What that means is each state is willing to play nice with the other states to make up a larger country to, among other things, specifically protect the borders and provide for a number of other things. So when folks in modern culture take a look at these, well, we need the federal government to do something, what they're doing is trying to take a look at a framework that lets you paint the entire country with one brush. But the literally founding documents and founding ethos and tilt of this entire country's legal system for the last 250 or so years is states are autonomous. That's what the Dobbs decision was. It wasn't we're disagreeing with an agreement. A mistake was made. The 10th Amendment explicitly says anything that the Constitution doesn't explicitly empower the federal government to do, it cannot do. It's an impossibility under our existing legal framework. That is what federalism is in the context of US law.
Okay.
I don't know what it has to do with Switzerland.
Right. So it relates to abortion because there was a mistake in the Constitution, and the Constitution didn't overtly say
There was a mistake.
abortion
in
is
the
inside of it.
Constitution?
But the founding court decision was based on what is in the Constitution, which is right to privacy.
No, Roe v. Wade was based off of ignoring the entire foundation of states' rights, and that was a very painful 40-year correction. But it was a correction that was wrong when they did it then, and it's they overturned it. The premise is it's not a mistake that the Constitution didn't include it. There was an awful the Constitution and the framework that we work under has created the most stable and prosperous society literally in all of recorded human history. It's done more for advancing human rights. We take a look, people like to complain about American history and say,
We've been
oh, well,
real
it's
stable
oppressive,
recently.
I'm still going, man. So we say, oh, it's got all these terrible things. But if you take a look at it, the through line through 250 years of jurisprudence is equality under the law. That's what we rally around. And so it's not just like it's an annoying thing that they didn't include that in the Constitution. It's literally in the DNA of why the country has succeeded.
Okay. And we can't change that. We can't change the law. There's no sort of provisions in the Constitution to allow for that.
I don't. So your argument.
And do you think that the court's decision with Roe v. Wade was a mistake?
Yeah, Roe v.
And
Wade was 100%.
there was a terrible reign.
just real quick.
And-
Let Josh finish, and then I question. Once Josh responds to that, Dispel, I want to know whether you think Roe v. Wade was a mistake and why or why not. But go ahead, respond to the question, please.
Yeah. So Roe v. Wade was a mistake because it is inconsistent with the foundation of the rest of the laws. To touch on your point, part of what has made this such an enduring legal framework is the ability not just for participation, but for civilian participation. To speak to the issue we're covering right now, the great state of Nevada that I live in, can love this country, love this state. They, long time ago, wrote into their constitution that abortion is protected up to 24 weeks. Now, at the time, folks thought 24 weeks was a reasonable guideline. Folks generally, even in the pro-choice arenas, if you have the conversation around 20 weeks, they're usually more fine with. I think 24 was reflective of the fact it was in the 90s. We didn't have as much imaging. We didn't really know as much. But practically speaking, absolutely. The whole reason why Roe v. Wade was a botched abortion of a decision was that it did not allow for states to do that which is enumerated. It's not enumerated in the Constitution. It's a states' rights issue. Like they don't have it's not, you can't overcome that by saying, well, we're more moral now, or we have this enlightened perspective and thank God the federal government's here to save everyone. Like that it runs counter to literally every building brick on our legal foundation.
Okay, so you asked me if I think Roe v. Wade was a mistake, and I'm going to say, yeah, I think it was a mistake. I think it was built on some really flimsy grounds based on the right to privacy. But I think the courts essentially made the decision that I think has the correct outcome. And primarily the reason that I think it was a mistake was because the Democrats thought that the Supreme Court decisions were this untouchable, holy thing, and so they didn't need to do any sort of permanent legislation to enshrine abortion into the Constitution like many other Western nations recently.
Okay, so you think it was just based on flimsy law, but you liked the outcome, and so you thought it was a good thing overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, overall, like the Constitution right now is like a couple thousand pages because the Constitution isn't just the amendments, it's also all the court precedent that has been set.
No, that's the court precedent that's been set. The Constitution.
And fortunately, we've got a system that allows the people to amend it, to change it, to enforce new things. And I think it's well within the scope of the Constitution, which asks the government to preserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to enshrine exactly my prescription of a 24-week ban, and then a local particular agency that assesses the capabilities of hospitals.
All right, I got a question. What are your 3 favorite federal government agencies and why?
I would say EPA.
Okay. Now I understand that you might struggle with math. Repeating the same answer 3 times was 3 times you repeated it, but that's just one of them and you didn't answer why.
I mean, the CIA is pretty cool. The FBI is like the FBI has done a couple of like iffy things. So I don't know if I would be able to call them my favorite thing, but in terms of like 3-letter agencies, no, I don't really care about any of the other ones.
Okay, so why do you like the EPA?
How is this relevant to abortion? I appreciate the question, but like I enjoy preserving.
No,
the
don't do that
you know
to
what
me.
I'm saying?
I'm going
I like having clean rivers.
You didn't even.
I like
you
having
didn't answer
pure
my
food.
question on
It's
the
cool.
first. Go ahead.
Finish your point, Parrot. Go ahead.
I like having clean rivers. I like having forests that are well maintained. I like, no pollution. I think that's really cool.
So, do you like the Department of Energy?
The ones that maintain our nukes, and that's sort of what makes us a country. So yeah, I'd say so.
So, the Department of Energy has also led the charge on making sure that we don't have inexpensive, affordable, and clean electricity because of the hostility they have on the nuclear programs. As you likely know, AI has really taken over a lot of exciting markets, and there's a lot of potential there. And a bottleneck is the electricity. Now, the cost of electricity for these data centers isn't really that big of a deal because they're making a bunch of money on it, but it is raising residential and commercial electricity rates because it's spiking demand. If we had nuclear power, which the DOE again has gone out of their ways, bending over backwards to cry, we need renewable energy, we need clean energy, we need green energy, but the clean energy of the nuclear energy, they're allergic to. And so the agency that's been tasked with literally, right, Department of Energy, if you take a look at a lot of these windmills, they can't keep up. The solar panels, they can't keep up. So we have a perfect energy solution that would make electricity very affordable for everyone. This means that the peasants can have heat and air conditioning. This means that we're going to be able to have data centers that can thrive and compete. And the Department of Energy stands in the way of that. The EPA is not the only way that you can clean rivers. For example, each state can manage its own environment. And I believe every state in the country has some environmental department to do just that. So pray tell
Look,
why
your argument is that I think
finish.
federal
like
agencies are perfect.
away.
I think you're mistaken.
I do.
don't think
Hold on,
federal
just real quick.
agencies
I do want to let him finish, but I do want him to tie it into the abortion topic as well, please.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. The whole point is the DOE is horrific. The EPA is not particularly tasked for this, and you're saying you want to create federal agencies that address and manage something in healthcare in every county. So you want to make this giant infrastructure because if you're having a physical location or oversight in every hospital setting in the country, That's a big agency. And the federal government has never done a good job at that.
I mean, I don't see why, like the federal government hasn't done a good thing of that, or like there have been no successes in terms of federal agencies is necessarily a reason to say that what I'm proposing wouldn't work, or necessarily that we shouldn't preserve women's freedom to choose whether or not they carry their child into month 6, 7, 8, 9.
Well, I mean, sounds like you also agree that abortion should largely be illegal for a window.
I
Isn't
mean,
that
what,
partially what you're saying?
9 months total, 3 months, about 3 months I want it banned. Yeah, you can call that a majority if you want.
No, I'm not saying the majority, a percentage. If I said majority, I misspoke. But for some percentage of that, you're agreeing it should be illegal in some way. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think that we should be just ripping people out of, their nice, comfortable homes where they're living a life ready to bloom into something nice and productive.
Yeah, and so I mean, we actually the four corners of the disagreement that we're having right now is between 6 weeks and roughly 20. You're going to say 24 weeks. I think if you looked at it, you'd probably say it's 20, 22 weeks. But like, we're only arguing about back of the napkin math, right? 15 weeks here. So like, are you really on team it should be legal, or are you on team there should be laws in place to prevent it?
I
Ignoring
mean,
like, you're going,
I feel like I've been decently clear, and you've been great about asking questions. So yeah, I do have a problem with those 15 weeks. And unfortunately, like a lot of the people who I see recently who've been debating the stuff, like people like Erudite, who completely got blown the fuck out, Destiny, who shouldn't even be ever arguing about abortion or women's rights, like they sort of just like let their opponent just say like, oh yeah, I think we should. Most of these abortion bans or like these stories are up until about 20 weeks, but we should just cover the rest of the weeks as well, right? Just complete abortion bans, right? You're somebody who says 6-week ban, and so there's these 14 weeks, and 14 weeks is quite a bit, and it's certainly worth litigating over.
on most of Europe is at like the 12 to 16 week range too, right? The Nevada's 24 weeks is extremely generous by current standards if you look at anywhere in Western society.
Why is
So
that
I don't
generous though?
well, just in the sense that 24 weeks is more than, for example, 16 weeks. So if you're looking at a distribution and we say, okay, well, in Europe, it's 12 weeks here, 14 weeks here, 16 weeks here. We say Nevada, it's 24 weeks. Comparatively, it's more generous.
So, do you think that like time is money, and the more money that you give out, the more generous you are?
Hold on. I think definitionally, the more money you give out, the more generous you are. Is that not just
Yeah,
true?
but like time isn't money. Like let's call a spade here. I'm
Right.
not sure
Time is time
why.
and money is money.
Like, why do you think it's more generous?
Because the word that's used for a broader allowance when you're narrowing the scope of something is a more generous, for example, a generous tolerance, a more generous pour. If we're thinking about
Okay, so it's a
wine, a
more
more generous pour.
general tolerance.
There's a
And
larger
you don't
window
think
of
that tolerance is okay?
I don't think you understand the framing on this, if I'm honest. Like, this is like a stupid fight for me.
No,
Like,
I
you're
understand the framing, and the framing is you think that the 24-week ban in Nevada is more generous because it is more tolerant to the freedoms of women, and
no,
you don't like that tolerance.
I think it's more generous because it's a wider timeline. For example, if I had a 10-day deadline on something and someone you said, "Oh, I get a 20-day deadline on it," I'd say, "Wow, you have a more generous deadline than I do." It's descriptive. It's like saying water is wet.
Right. We got to the bottom of it, which is you think that 24 weeks is more tolerant than 12 weeks.
That's not what I said. I don't know why you like repeating things I didn't say and claiming I said them, but that's not what I said.
Is
I didn't use
I
the word
mean,
tolerant at all.
yeah, you
Okay.
did.
Let me ask you a question, Josh. And maybe maybe we can pull
Maybe.
something
We'll
out
try.
of this abortion of a debate.
Good line.
You say personally that your line is about 6 weeks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ish. Okay. So when you are, and you were a congressional candidate, for example, why are
State Senate.
sure? Sorry, apologies.
Much lower interest.
Fair enough. Why is it that people wouldn't expect you to advocate or to pass laws that would restrict abortion further than it is from 24 weeks to 6 weeks? Why would they give you that grace? Why should they give you that grace?
So there's two ways to answer this. The sort of absolutely true, but perhaps unsatisfying answer is it's codified in the Nevada. So, for example, I was running for Nevada State Senate. It's codified in Nevada's constitution, I believe, that like that is what it is. The only way for that to change is literally a statewide ballot initiative, and it has to go on the ballot twice to change it. Legislator can't, even if they wanted to, even if every legislative candidate went there. So I said that'd be an unsatisfying answer. Was I correct about that one? Because it sounds like a cop out from my angle.
Sure.
So I'll give you the now let's pretend that that didn't exist. If that didn't exist, the fact of the matter is, if I'm running for public office, my job isn't to represent my interests; it's to represent the populace. And the fact of the matter is, I believe the general consensus is we don't like full term, like partial birth abortion, right? 8 month. Virtually no one's comfortable with that. And most people think 6 weeks is too soon. A lot of the argument is you would. So the point is the legislator is supposed to be representatives, not leaders, representing the interests of their people. The people have made it very clear they like around that 24 week, right? I mean, literally it's codified into 24 weeks right now. So if anybody that voted for me, they weren't voting for me to go move my agenda. They were voting me to represent the interest of the great people of Nevada State Senate District 6.
But wouldn't the argument be if they elected you, then you are the one that they trust to make these decisions and things like that? Would you not be their chosen leader in this?
I wouldn't be their leader. I'd be their representative. And if I was doing my job, which 28% of them thought I would, if I was doing my job, I'd be representing them. The whole point of representative government isn't for those that go into it to be able to hijack the rest of society. It's to go in and represent those wishes. So, for example, I was in a slightly blue area. Like Nevada's really cool. It's about a third blue, about a third red, and about a third independent. Most of the reds aren't that red, the blues aren't that blue. They're pretty sensible people. And so like what they're looking for is someone that's going to represent their interests, right? In Nevada, the legislature's in Carson City, which is actually nowhere near Las Vegas. And they meet every other year for I think 4 months. And you have to go down there and literally argue for your people. So I think the presumption is once someone gets into office, they maybe exert their will on the people, but really it should be they're going there to exert the people's will on the government.
Fair enough. Parrot.
Yeah, I think that's super awesome, and I think we should implement more structures inside the United States government to make representatives more responsive to the will and the needs and the desires of the local people.
God bless America,
Sure,
man.
but what we're talking about today, just to be clear, right, is what we want and what we would ideally like America and to convince America to move towards. So yes, we could say right now that Americans are generally comfortable with X, Y, and Z, but I don't think that answers the question, the debate on what should we as a society be comfortable with. And I want to discuss that. So Parrot, let me ask you this. So you're generally okay with bans of like 8-month abortion and things like that in outside of health of the mother stuff, right? Is that correct framing of your position, Parrot?
Yeah, I think 25 weeks is pretty solid.
Fair enough. Okay. What would you do you think that those abortions within the time period that you think that should be legal, do you think that they should be government funded? And what I mean by that is should I'm blanking on the name of healthcare, like Medicare for all, and any kind of Medicare for all plan or Medicare plan, any kind of government subsidy plan, should they cover abortions? Why or why not?
I think, yeah, in all honesty, like it's honestly kind of a tough question. And the idea of profit behind abortion is really, really touchy. And I think, honestly, what sets a lot of people off of the idea of abortion, that people are making money off of ending entities' lives. But I think my value is that, I think that the state should secure life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And family planning is one of those things. So today I published a video on nucleus genomics, and my main criticism of nucleus, or my main prescription for the nucleus genomics technology, is that either we should ban it or we should make it available to all American
Nucleus
families.
genomics. Can you define what the fuck is that?
Oh, it is something insidious, seeded by Peter Thiel. Basically, they analyze a couple of different embryos that you can submit to their company, and they will analyze the genome of your embryos to
Eugenic kind
give
of
a
thing, right?
prediction. It is kind of eugenics.
Okay, so like, you can
It's
pick
quite
the,
literally eugenics.
the
Yeah,
more
it's
intelligent embryo.
it's
or
behind a
whatever.
$150,000 price tag, and like unfortunately, like this technology, I think we can either ban it or we can make it available to all Americans, because I think family planning and empowering women to decide if they're ready to have a child is of the utmost importance.
Aren't they empowered already?
I mean, not at 6 weeks.
I mean, no, before they even get pregnant, aren't they empowered to decide if they want that or not?
I mean, right, except for, the exceptions that, you're a fan for carving out for
I
the
already gave you
band.
those for free, and you want to
Right,
bring them
yeah.
up, even though
No,
it's
no,
the
no.
Mets case.
What I'm saying is, like, except for the exceptions, yeah, I mean, sometimes women have a choice, but sometimes they need a couple of
Sometimes?
months to think about it, right? As the weight sort of starts to set in, the hunger craving. Yeah, honestly, I think I just trust the women to make the choice up until about
Okay.
24 or 25 weeks.
So, just Wick,
I know you're
I
not
have
okay
some
with that sort of tolerance.
I have some threads I could pull on with Dispel here that I find interesting. I think we've mashed it. I'm
Yeah,
happy to
you
hop
guys
on any.
have circled the drain a little bit. I think we've defined this. I do want to talk about the eugenics thing, if you guys don't mind. I have some thoughts.
I just
I don't
have
mind.
one quick question
Go
for him
ahead,
first.
please.
So you seem to believe that the framework that you're proposing is consistent with the government helping with life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I have a follow-up, but just quick yes or no. Is that roughly what you're saying?
Right, family planning, making sure that kids are in families that want them and love them, and
Right.
in
So
case
why
that
should
there are births outside of the abortion ban, that there's some sort of robust system to match them with families who are looking for somebody who isn't necessarily their own progeny.
so the foundation of our country is that the government should fuck off and let us take care of ourselves, and that's the best way to help us pursue life, liberty, and right for the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? The pursuit of property. That's specifically what that was. So my question to you, and then like this is like the beginning and end of the thread for me on this one. Before we get to the eugenics, what on earth makes you think that the government should be in that role in that way, meaning playing an active role versus disengagement?
Well, I mean, I don't think that the government would have any more of an active role in my prescription rather than your prescription, right? Your
You want
prescription
to create a
is
whole
a ban up
agency.
until 6 weeks, and my prescription is a ban up until 25 weeks.
You want to
So, if
create
anything, there's more in yours.
you did you not say your prescription is to create some government agency that will have a physical presence of some kind in every hospital or maternal ward setting in
Yeah,
the
I
country?
think they should do like yearly
Yeah, I think
checks
that's government involved.
to assess how up to standard the hospitals are.
All right. Yep. All right.
And I mean,
Eugenics.
the idea that the nation was founded on the idea that the federal government should get the fuck out of people's lives, ostensibly is true,
No,
but
all government.
immediately after we won the Revolutionary War, we hiked taxes up like 1,000,000% higher than they were during the English King.
It wasn't just no federal government, it was all government. It is the nature of those that put together like
All
the
government? No, 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 no. Representative
no, no,
government.
no, the literally the founding documents
We were
basically
not
viewed
founded by
the nature.
anarchists.
The founding documents outline an inherent mistrust of government and the need for mechanics to allow the citizenry to push back, which is a part of why we're allowed to vote for judges and legislators so we don't have bloody armed revolutions. They
Right.
weren't
So,
just afraid
well,
of a federal government. They
yeah,
were
the
conscientiously wanting
Constitution.
to empower citizens to not have any, like, not ever be at the mercy of a government.
So the Constitution doesn't have a mistrust of government. It has a mistrust of a unitary government with a singular person making all the decisions at the very top, like a king,
It's
which is why we have
literally
no
not
king's
at
protest
all
recently.
anywhere. No, like literally go if you have a hard time sleeping at night, like a lot of people do, grab a copy of the Federalist Papers and just start reading through it. Each one is not particularly long and it paints a very clear picture. It wasn't just, oh, we don't want this government or that government. It's the nature of man is such that if you consolidate force into a government, that they, like, for example, there was a risk of standing armies. And the whole premise is if you have standing armies, then it gives the government more horsepower than the citizenry. And so you shouldn't have standing armies. That's not a commentary on state versus federal versus anything. That's literally, they discuss the nature of government and governance.
I mean,
Eugenics, huh?
if you're suggesting that we should,
Yeah. Before
scrutinize the government, yeah, 100%,
before we get to the other portions, I do, because that is eugenics and things are beyond the scope of what we had today. So I do want to give you guys closing statements on the abortion portion of the debate. And then, so we do have reporting on the suspect in the National Guard that I want to talk about just briefly. He was an Afghan national, according to NBC. So there we go.
Twitter's gonna have a field day.
Yeah, that will be interesting.
That will keep it spicy.
Yes,
People will have things to say.
Regardless,
Closing.
I'm going to give.
All right,
Parrot,
Mr. Parrot, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, let me do my job. All right, Parrot, you get the first word, and I'll let Josh here have the last. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, thanks, Wick, for having us. I know our formerly scheduled debate panel had a late-term abortion, and that has unfortunate consequences for the rest of the debate. Streamrift, Josh, I appreciate you showing up and filling it in. My position on abortion is pretty succinctly, I think, summarized by the following. Abortion should be available, freely available to women up until fetal viability, and up until that point, mothers experiencing stuff like unemployment, rape, if they're a single parent, marital problems, if there's a history of abuse, mental health, depression. I think women should be empowered to make the choice on whether or not they're ready to have a family and take on a very serious, substantial burden that has wide-reaching consequences for society. And ultimately, fetal viability is something that is dependent on the local technological and economic support systems of the world, and I think that there should be some accommodation for that.
Okay, well, thank you for being. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
You can find me on Twitch, dispel.marketable-streams, on YouTube, dispel marketable archive.
Okay, thank you for being here. I do appreciate that. And again, I'm sorry your opponent ran away before he could debate you. But I do appreciate you for sticking it out. And Josh, thank you again for coming last minute. I know it's kind of wonky when we had something set up and now we got to mash something in a square peg and round hole. But go ahead, Josh, give your closing thoughts and where people can find you. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm StreamRift.com, like StreamRift.com without the dot on X. That's probably the most fun place to find me. Yeah, thanks to Wick for inviting me. It's always I think one of the things that we really struggle with is just having reasonable discussions with each other. And so I like hopping in on here. The fact of the matter is the prescription that I have is guys. I'm only speaking to the men right now. These women can kill your kid. They can put you on basically for the rest of your life, they can fuck with you. And they get the full choice in whether or not they get to kill your child. So think about that before you spend intimate time with them, because you have no say in the matter after that. I think a society that cares about existing should care about those that can't protect themselves. And the most defenseless that humans ever will be generally is when they're in the womb. We're not even able to, as my opponent brought up, sustain life on their own without that support from mom there. And so I will say, I think that Dispel here did a pretty good job conceding the later term abortions. A lot of folks have a hard time giving up that much ground. But I hope he felt respected and like I engaged in it a bit here. The way I typically will show respect is engaging and challenging folks on things. It means I actually care. I'm interested. And so, yeah, I appreciate the engagement here. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Thanks
That's all I
for
got.
showing up. And in all honesty, I think this debate turned out much better than what I expected from our former guest, because you are somebody who is willing to grapple with sort of the ambiguity that, you know, there is a time frame where we shouldn't ban abortion within, and there's all these other carve outs. So yeah, I thought that was great. I think we really got to the core, the messy core of it.
To be fair to Parrot here, he was prepared to argue with someone who was no carve outs. We're just banning it across the board.
Those are.
But
Yep.
But regardless, okay, you guys can stick around if you like. I'm going to go for a few more minutes and talk about a few more things, but you can go if you'd like as well. It's up to you. I'm not going to hold you hostage here. I do want to talk about the eugenics portion of things, and I do want to talk about the National Guard stuff briefly, and then we're going to wrap it up in a few minutes here. On the National Guard front, so the reporting is being said, and I'll just report this, and you guys can respond if you like. So the FBI believes, and I'm reading this from CNN to be clear, the FBI believes they've identified the suspect in today's shooting of 2 National Guardsmen. Multiple law enforcement officials briefed on the matter tell CNN. The officials said that the shooter's initial identification matches a man from Washington State who appears to have immigrated here from Afghanistan in August 2021. Authorities ran the fingerprints of the man in custody, and that's how they got the initial name, one law enforcement official added, noting they are still working on additional confirmation. So these are initial reports. Keep in mind, based on the fingerprints of the guy, according to the FBI, according to reports. And we're not sure if he's legal immigrant, illegal immigrant. I'm not seeing that reported anywhere, by any reputable source at least. Yeah, what are our thoughts here? What happens next, or what should happen next? And to be clear, we're going to do a larger debate on this Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern with Soy Pill and a couple others. But yeah, what are your thoughts, gang?
I don't know too much of the details.
That's fine.
I mean, let me ask you this. This is sort of a temperature check. Where do you sit with false flags?
False. What do you mean? Where do I sit with them? Do I think they ever happen? I'm sure that they do, but do I think that people always point to something and call it a false flag when it's not a false flag? That also happens. So what do you mean?
Well, so I'll give you 2 examples that come to mind, and we'll go here. The Las Vegas shooting. This is going back a while.
The guy who killed like a bunch of people at the country music concert from a hotel room, shot into him.
That's the official story.
You don't think they were killed at a country music concert?
So I believe false flag doesn't mean people didn't die. It means something that the story is different than
it was organized.
And I'll explain the plot hole that I have. The big like red flag I can't shake with the Vegas shooting is this is premised on believing a guy walked through the casino carrying with all sorts of guns and no camera picked it up. I live in Las Vegas. The casinos have cameras everywhere. The idea that a guy unloaded all of that equipment from a vehicle and went to his room and there's no cameras of it is insane. I'm not mentioning that to say I disbelieve that. What I'm saying is the premise of this is somewhat fantastical. DC is very harsh on guns. They have very active police. I used to do private investigation work down there. If I was ever down there, I'd always see cop cars going around. They leave their lights on. Like, I'm skeptical. I'm not saying
a lot must have gone wrong.
I'm skeptical. I'm curious.
Okay, $5 for Mr. Wise Guy Plays to say this is what happens when they think they got a win in New York City. LMAO, OMG, it's a joke. Thank you for $5, I suppose. So are you saying that this DC shooting, you're skeptical that an Afghani immigrant did it? You think it's too on the nose, too...
Right. So just from what you're saying, and I'm just playing with what we've got here.
Sure.
So Afghan national goes to Washington. And you're saying from Washington State or Washington, D.C.? Because I thought you said Washington, meaning Washington State.
The official, well, it says, the reporting says the officials said the shooter's initial identification matches a man from Washington State. Yes.
Okay. So he comes to Washington State, then goes to the other side of the country,
To DC.
somehow
yes.
happens to have a gun and happens to make shots and gets that's quite the John Wick tale.
I don't know. People travel with guns all the time, and it's America. We all have guns, right? That's the meme.
Well, I mean,
Most people
it's-
have guns, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
the
this guy like a
average American-
citizen?
I don't find that fantastic to see
think
that
that- so
a
you think
man
that-
traveled with a gun to shoot someone in America.
And no, I think that an Afghan national that landed in Washington State going to the other side of the country to an area that is super, super hostile to gun ownership didn't just bring the gun, but got away with landing successful shots. Not saying he should have it. I condemn it, in fact, but it's a bit of it leaves me with questions.
Well, I don't
have
think
questions,
he's
you go, nah,
sniping.
that's not
I
make
think
sense.
you've got a healthy amount of skepticism in you, in all honesty.
No, are you both on this train that this is like a very skeptical thing? Like, again, we don't know. I don't know, at least, and maybe you guys
I
do.
think people do underestimate how powerful the government is.
You think
and
we
how little it
underestimate how
takes
powerful the
to
government is?
Push people over like the line to do highly public, radical, violent acts. And it's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy, but I don't see
I mean, we're never gonna
anything
get any sort of-
fantastical. And let me just finish what
Oh,
I'm saying
yeah.
before we get into it, right? But I don't see anything fantastical about the idea of someone, an Afghan immigrant, seeing what's going on, right? And whether that be because he hates America, because he's one of those death to America jihad type of persons, or whether or not it's rhetoric, or whether or not he just wanted to get on the news. I'm not assigning motives here. But for whatever reason, he decided to hop in his car, take his gun, and shoot two National Guardsmen in broad daylight in DC. We have shootings all the time in America. This doesn't seem far-fetched. They're not going to check his trunk. We don't have border stops where people stop your car and then search your car. We don't know whether this was him sniping them from far away. Did he just come up to them point blank and pop real quick? What caliber? Did he use a pistol? Did he use a rifle? We have no information on this yet.
So I believe it was a rifle. And your argument that there's lots of shootings let's walk this back just a sec.
Sure.
Let's assume for a moment that there's some factions that would like it for filthy liberals and maggot tards and anarchists to all hate each other and be bothered and always just be in a frenzy about things. But that runs counter to actual American culture, which is generally we've succeeded because we get along and we try to look out for each other. So if we have this really nasty rhetoric about a fascist president, about some authoritarianism, maybe we start calling National Guard stormtroopers, things like that. We create this environment where there's a lot of public sentiment critical of the National Guard being there, and one of them gets shot. It really doesn't matter who did it or why they did it. It's a nice ignition point at a powder keg. And what really makes false flags work is people are running on emotion and not looking at the details. And so if you were trying to amplify this would be a great way to amplify it. That doesn't mean that is what's happened. To quote Garrick from Deep Space Nine, I believe in coincidences. Coincidences happen all the time, but I don't trust coincidences. So this could have just happened. It seems very strange to me.
Yeah. If I may add, the devil is frequently in the details, and pretty much the most substantive piece of detail that we've got is that he traveled across the entire nation to shoot
Hold on.
somebody in the center
We
of
don't
the
know
capital.
if, again, he's from Washington State. That's where he arrived. We don't know how long he's been in D.C. We have no idea.
Somehow he got over there, though.
Yeah, but if he came to Washington State, he stayed a year because it's 2021, and then 3 years ago he moved to Washington D.C.
Let me ask
What's
you this.
crazy about that? Was this a sleeper cell or something?
No, so I don't even buy into that. And I can't
Yeah.
even get into all of that here right now because of the platforms we're on. The whole Death to America routine is wildly overstated, which makes me even more uncomfortable with the fact it's Afghanistani.
I don't know. I think that they just conclude that the Muslim Brotherhood was a terrorist organization. I'm not sure.
That's
They just called Antifa a terrorist organization as well.
Yeah, true.
and I'm
but-
willing to say they
lots
both
of
are.
organizations right now
Fine.
Yeah, but I again, like when you say that the devil's in the details, here's my problem with conspiracy theorists in general, is that you can paint skepticism into almost any event. You can find details that were misreported at the time because of how we do our journalism. A lot of people will report different things at different times and they'll get it wrong initially. So, for example, initially they were saying the suspect wasn't in custody, right? But then they said they changed their tune. No, actually they did have the guy. There's still mixed reporting, and I'm still not sure whether those National Guardsmen have died or not. There's mixed reporting on this because people are trying their best to get accurate information, but because the facts are loose on the ground, and because we give preference to people who get information out first, then we have people racing with unconfirmed information. So when you go through any event and enough time has passed, you can point to incidences in that event that don't add up or don't make sense or don't pass the smell test. And you can nitpick on the details while and create this kind of like shadowy conspiracy around almost any event.
You're not wrong that you can, but let me ask you this. So, let me real quick, sort of yes, no. Do you think there's anything remotely suspicious about this?
I mean, not so far, not from the reporting, no.
Okay, so
Like, well, hold on. When you say suspicious is in this was set up by the government.
Hold on, wait.
But then-
Do you mind if I ask, like, if you're somebody with an Afghani background and you're committing an act of violence against a federal officer in the center of the nation, it should at some point cross your minds that this may or may not have consequences for people that look like you.
If I'm mad enough, why do I care?
that's
That's
some real
fair.
raw energy there. But
That's fair.
so, Wick, when you say okay, so it sounds like so you point accurately to the fact as information's coming out, later it conflicts. Fact of the matter is the universe is a strange and crazy place. I still don't know how cell phones work. It's fucking magic to me. It talks to a satellite, real-time communication, might as well be magic. So I see things that make me go, huh, yellow flags, red flags. When you see things that don't make sense, do you just sweep it into a bucket where you go, 5% of things might not make sense? Like, how do you, right? Because I reconcile it by saying, this is a little weird. Here's the things I'm on my radar. And it sounds like for you, you look at those things or you don't see those and you're like, some of it's okay.
I think that it's okay to question, and I think it's good to question, but we have to keep those questions in the context of what's happening. We have a pretty reasonable, at least so far, explanation is someone, and we're not even assigning motive yet. I have no idea the motive of this guy, right? Someone, for whatever reason, decided to shoot two National Guardsmen in the middle of Washington, D.C. There's a whole host of reasons where I could say, oh, that makes sense. I would say it was horrible, horrific, terrible, all that. Disavow, all down the board. But
I'll condemn it.
that makes sense. I understand the reasoning behind the action, right? The fact that we don't have any motivation yet means I can't begin to decide what makes sense or what doesn't make sense because we just have nothing to draw on. There's no context around these reports. All we know, and this is, again, just initial reporting, so it might not be accurate, right? But all we know is that it's being reported to news agencies such as NBC, CNN, etc. by the FBI that this man is an Afghani immigrant who came here in 2021. And he's the one who shot these two National Guardsmen. That's the only bits of information we have. So anyone who's trying to extrapolate from that there's not enough to work with, and you're playing a sucker's game.
But the problem is people are going to be doing that anyways.
Well, they're doing it. and I talked to this before you guys came in. There are people who are already blaming either Trump or the Democrats. They're saying, look at the Democrats, those seditious six. Mark Kelly has blood on his hands, blah, blah, blah. He told people not to obey lawful orders, and now someone's shooting guardsmen in the street. It must be his fault. And then there are people saying, Trump put him there. Trump's responsible. They wouldn't have got shot if Trump hadn't put him there. Trump's to blame. And you have all these people trying to use and weaponize these things when we have a very, very, very small amount of information. And anyone trying to use this as to narrativize this at this point is playing a sucker's game.
Right, but I feel like I prefer our narrative. I think Streamrift and I have a very similar understanding of American nature, which is generally altruistic, generally trying to look out for one another, trying to keep their head down, sort of self-defense. And in opposition, we've got the American government, which is very much so interested in fomenting unrest to pursue its own political devices of control.
Hold on.
It's tough.
Do you think that the government gets more control when we're divided? I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I would argue that when the government has a cohesive, unified populace behind them, that they are able to get far more done than they have this gridlocked, like Armageddon type thing. This is to be clear. This is why we have foreign actors who are fomenting division in this country, and we saw this most clearly, most recently, with the amount of foreign actors who have been posing as Americans on Twitter and X, and
like Ben
trying
Shapiro.
to. Can I finish my point? Then I'll let you go.
I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah, that's fine. It is in other countries, our enemies' interests, for us to be divided because they know it makes our government less powerful. That would be my argument. Go ahead, respond.
So do you? So I believe that there's. If we take a look at what our federal government is and what our federal governance is, we can take a look at, call it the legislative body and the federal courts. Great. Why on earth do you think that the government has aligned interests with the American people? Because like it's easier for them to, if we're divided, they can keep taxing us and screwing us and winning over legislative sessions. Most of what goes on in Congress, possibly, I don't want to be too conspiratorial, maybe all, but most of what goes on in Congress has nothing to do with WIC, Parrot, anybody watching this. It has to do with moving money around for interests way above our paid grade and anything that we're allowed to touch. So, of course, as long as they keep the peasants in control, they can keep taxing them and they can keep running things. Like that's a huge incentive, and it sounds like you don't agree. Like you think they'd want us to be behind them.
I think that especially on a local level, especially when we talk about the state governments and things like that, or I'm sorry, individual senators who want their state behind them so that they will continue to be elected into power. I think that they benefit from having their constituency support them. The more constituents that support them, the more that they're able to get done, not only for themselves, but for their states. And I think that it tends to, when it works, right, it tends to mean we get a lot of stuff passed, and we get a lot of things that are able to help not only these special interests, but the American people as a whole. As you said at the beginning of this debate, I believe, or maybe not at the beginning, you mentioned that the way our system works has led to human flourishing on a level we haven't seen before. So I think that given the fact that we, after 9/11, for example, were very unified, okay, we got a lot of stuff done, not all of it good, but we got a lot of stuff done. I think it is in the government's interest.
Couldn't talk against the war at the time.
Sure. It is in our government's interest to have the people support it. And I think that when you have the people divided and the people continuously coming up with conspiracy theories about why the government's screwing you over, I think it puts a sand in the gears of the government and it causes chaos and confusion. And that is not something the government wants. Marlo Kurtz for $10 says, I'm behind on stream, but I like it on record that this neckbeard pseudo mixed up Publius and E pluribus, and that's somehow the least moronic thing to come out of this mouth. Dispels so patient. Thank you for the $10. Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Neckbeard?
Yeah, I think the fucktard should have given you $20.
I agree. True. But
Nice.
well, how would you respond to that though?
Go for it.
Again, we seem to see that the periods in history where we have been most united as a country, we've gotten the most done for everyone.
Here's the problem I have, Wick. I think you're actually a good guy with a good heart that likes his country and has a reasonable understanding of the good nature of a lot of people around him. The problem with this is I view the current federal government. This isn't my grand sweeping indictment on all government, but the current federal government and specifically the way the legislator currently works and these the fourth pillar of government with these different agencies, like they're the enemy of the American people and they want us agitated. And what you just described to me is your foundation for why you think that's not the case. So I think there's actually a lot to unpack on
Hold
that,
on.
but I
Generally,
don't think
I think we need to correct something. I would agree with you that certain administrations, in order to gain power for themselves at the expense of the American government and people, have used divisive tactics in order to gain power for themselves. But that is a different statement than the government itself generally acts this way. I think that one of the threats to our government right now are the people who are currently running it.
I wish we meant that the same way, but I agree.
We don't, but we
don't.
So-
Well, let me ask you this though. So like, there's like, for example, I hate the federal government currently, and I absolutely adore our founding documents and the structure and mechanics for which our government has, like the structure of our government, even our jurisprudence. Like we've got a lot of good law, we've got a lot of good sort of results here in a lot of ways, but I mean, I guess I'll ask you this. Which of are in the last 10 administrations, are there any that you think have not been divisive? And feel free to wiggle that around however you
Sure,
want. You see
I
the point I'm
understand.
getting at.
I think that there is some level of division just inherently within a democracy or a republic or any sort of government really that you can think of, aside from, well, even authoritarian governments have their divisions. So if you're going by the strict definition of divisiveness, I'd have to say they all had levels of divisiveness, but we can absolutely measure the levels of divisiveness that the governments have had within them or influence the country and put on the country. And I would say that when it comes to the government itself, I think that, and you're gonna yell at me, Biden and Obama were far more unifying for the country, or tried to unify the country more than Trump and even Bush. Bush tried to unify the country, right? I'll give that to President Bush, right? In fact, the only administration I would say in the last 20 that I can think of that have tried to divide the American people has been the Trump administration. Now, that's not to say that there are other actors who aren't using whatever administration's in power to try to divide the American people, but those are either foreign actors, people who are outside of political power, journalists, podcasters, etc. They've all tried.
The basket of deplorables quote is pretty frequently brought up.
Say it one more time, please.
As divisive rhetoric. The basket of deplorables line is pretty frequently brought up.
Clinton, who didn't win office,
has
yes.
political power, didn't get an administration, and was using divisive rhetoric.
The other thing is, like, Wick, I'm not going to yell at you. If I ever start yelling at anybody, now I do get loud sometimes, but if I'm ever yelling at somebody, it means
you know what I mean by that. I wasn't
comfortable.
saying literally yell, but you're going to disagree
That's
with me.
fair. I know what you mean by it, but I also want to be clear. I do try to hold myself to a certain standard. The fact of the matter is I'm unvaccinated, and Biden administration wanted to make my life a living hell and punish me for that. And I could point to a gazillion other examples of this. The DOJ is very selective about who they've been going after. They go after conservatives for praying at abortion clinics, things like that. And I don't want to get lost in the weeds on any of that, but I think the broader picture is, I think it's a lot easier to recognize rhetoric that upsets us than rhetoric that we agree with, even if both are divisive. And I find with a lot of folks that are critical of the Trump administration and not critical of other administrations, either are not familiar with what actually happened, or they just are ontologically unable to honestly engage with it, because the discrimination and the divisiveness. I mean, there was there's gonna be a cold winter coming. I forget the exact quote, but Biden's letter to the unvaccinated was, doom and despair.
Do you
Like,
think that was
that's insane.
hold
Not to
on.
mention,
I understand. Let's stick on that, just to stick
Okay.
on one at a time. You think that was divisive? How? Can you elaborate how that was dividing the American people?
Okay. I'll start by laying out some premises, and we'll get there real easy. I imagine.
Vaccinated and unvaccinated, right?
Well, so do you believe that the experimental vaccination was politically divisive?
I don't think it was until it was made to be so. I think that it was, again, a purposeful con on the American people in order to gain power by painting the elites as being evil liars. And this was initially not a divisive subject at all. Again, if you remember the COVID times, initially everyone was okay with it, but it wasn't.
No,
with the vaccine.
That's not true.
Oh, a vast majority. It is. This is documented. You can go read the Reddit posts. You can go read the podcasters at the time. You can go read the news reports at the time. You can go read the reporting at the time. Almost everyone was okay with it.
Until it wasn't, and
yeah, there came a point because again, people purposefully tried to
made it a divisive.
Yes,
thing.
People purposely used it as a wedge issue because they recognize that wedge issues are something that they can leverage in order to gain individual political power, and they absolutely did.
I don't think that undermines somebody's grievances when their job is telling them, "Hey, you have to get this vaccine, or we're going to fire you."
We've had mandatory vaccines for schools, for the military, for all these things for my entire life.
This is experimental. They were telling kids they had to have it, even though there was literally there's a part of a child's brain that provides a protection against COVID that metastasizes in puberty. That's why we had zero cases of that in children for a long time. The other thing is, this was divisive from minute one. I was living in LA when this broke out. And by the end, before I moved out, it was getting to the point where they probably wouldn't have even let me in a grocery store unless I took an experimental jab, which is now we have the proof that a lot of the medical testing wasn't good. But ignoring all of this, right, I think it was a divisive issue. And for the sitting president of the United States of America to make threatening statements, not to mention, didn't Biden say something about fighter jets when he's talking about the American people?
I don't remember the fighter jet comment. You'll have to remind me.
Let me grab that, because that, I think, is another very direct example.
If you don't mind me adding, I'm pretty sure that kids, they might not have symptoms from COVID-19, but they can still be carriers of the disease. I don't see why their cells would be any less receptive to taking the virus in, replicating it, and spreading it to their parents, which is something that happens very frequently with daycares. But, I mean, what you're saying, what StreamRift is saying is completely true. That's the Pfizer and Moderna companies changed their standards for production and quality checking the vaccines during the clinical trials and during the mass manufacturing phase. Multiple times it was brought to their attention that, hey, you've got some deficits in your quality checking. You're using two different standards that are different, have different sensitivities for length of mRNA or DNA chunks, and they sort of just blew it off. Because they already got their bag. They already got their check.
We'll tell you what, if you guys want to have a vaccine debate, we can set that up. I know a doctor who's looking for a debate. Dr. Greg, he was on my show yesterday. He might have some more knowledge on this than I do.
But we don't have a problem with vaccines broadly. It's the COVID vaccine. It's new. It was experimental, mRNA. There were lots of quality check controls, manufacturing.
Operation Warp Speed was a resounding success. It saved lives.
It was a success.
Hold up, Parrot, if I may. Parrot. No, Wick. So what you're about to do is pure grade A bullshit.
It's bullshit. How? Hold on. Well, do you disagree with the premise
right?
Do you disagree with the premise that the COVID vaccine from Pfizer, Moderna, etc., that they saved lives? That people who would have otherwise gotten the COVID and died because of it, or had severe health issues because of it, did not because they received the vaccine. Do you disagree with that premise?
I do disagree with that premise.
Okay, well
I'd
then
be
we
shocked
have
if it
a
was even
big
watch.
debate on our hands, because I think all the evidence points to the fact that it did save lives, and we can go through.
Well,
I don't
so
have
here's
it
the thing.
on my
Epidemiologically,
fingertips. but-
So,
It
Para, I
did.
do want to get on the
Oh.
point I just cut you off on about.
Go ahead.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Wick, you cannot say Trump's Operation Warp Speed and use that to say, well, if Trump did this, then Republicans are in line with that. And
No,
even if you
that's
were
not
going
what
to do
I'm
that here
saying.
and you didn't, oh, okay.
I'm just
So
calling
I-
it what it is, and I was saying it was, as my point here, is that the vaccine was effective and saved lives. That's my point. When it comes
Do
to
you-
divisive rhetoric, my point with that is that Biden saying, hey, please get vaccinated or you're going to have a bad time, right? I forget how he put it. That's not dividing the public.
Winner
That's
of-
trying
winner
to
of
educate the
darkness.
public on what will happen if they don't do X, Y, and Z. Now, you can argue he was hyperbolic about it, and that's fair, but that's a much different criticism than being
It's a little
divisive.
It's a little
Well,
coercive.
But here's the thing. He said, so this is a Biden quote. If you say the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots, if you need to take on the federal government, you need F-16s. You don't need an AR-15. Now, you can look up this quote. That's enough detail.
No, I
You can go
believe
look
you,
it. You can
right?
find it. He
Like
said that.
I think I
When
remember.
the sitting president of the United States of America's response to American distrust of him or pushback is, we have fighter jets. That seems
Try me,
more
bitch.
than divisive. That seems overtly hostile.
You understand the context in which he was saying that was people who were advocating for gun rights. And I agree with gun rights. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. But to say that he's threatening you, right, by just putting out the fact that you ain't going to do shit against an F-16, or I would more accurately say drones. Like, look at the Ukraine-Russian front. Like, drones rule
Why is
the
that-
battlefield. You can't stop that, right?
And look,
with your little
Biden
gun.
was spitting facts. Like, it's true. Like, individual citizens can't really compete to the power of the federal government. But I feel like there's so many other directions that Biden could have taken it, like addressing the concerns of the people who are worried about this experimental treatment.
Well, just
Instead
to
of
stick
like,
to F-16
try me,
thing-
bitch.
Right. the
Yeah, I
thing
don't
about
think the
F-16
F-16
is-
was in response to the COVID thing.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that,
it was a different
that
thing.
tone, no leader should take that tone with their populace. It isn't even necessarily about the legitimacy of whether what he said was true or not. And there's actual, like, AR-15s are actually better for civilians keeping their government out than this quote would, because the government's not going to just glass over whole cities. But setting that aside,
Hope not.
the hostile tone of we're gonna use fighter jets on you people, that's not leadership. That's threats.
Okay, 100 ARS, however much that is, I don't even know. From Real Serious says, I don't ever want to hear another amateur regard with a degree in online debate panels tell me a vaccine that basically the entire medical system said was safe actually wasn't, ever again. Thank you for the 100 ARS.
It should have been double, if not triple.
I don't know how much that is. It could be 10 cents.
Triple
I'm not
what?
sure.
You're right. It could be much more than yeah. I think the fact of the matter is, let me ask you this, Wick, and this is just a sanity check. I'm not going to do the whole, just looking for common ground here. Do you agree that there was an increase in myocarditis in some people after they took the mRNA vaccines?
I don't know, but I can even just grant you that there might have been, yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with what I think it was DOD, where they went and looked at before and afters on rates of any number of cancers, and where they saw like triple, like 200-300% increases in specific conditions over a narrow window after the vaccine was
Okay.
forced on everybody?
Sure, you
Are you
can
familiar at all with that
argue
data?
that certain vaccines had side effects, but the question is whether or not they would be better off with the side effects or the risk of side effects than the risk of not taking the vaccine and what might have happened to them there. And my argument is that the people who took the vaccine had better health outcomes overall across the board than the people who did not. That's not to say that everyone who didn't take the vaccine died. Obviously not, right? But the people,
Well, right,
the
and-
death rate between those who were vaccinated and those who were not vaccinated, it's not close.
So your argument is acknowledging that there was some negatives, but you're saying it was a net positive. Or are
By
you just
far,
saying that it
yes.
saved some lives? Okay.
Now, if I may, I think I agree with Wick. Broadly, the vaccine was a great success, and the cooperation between public and private was incredibly innovative and honestly very impressive. It seems to me that the problems really started to arise when they got to the mass manufacturing phase. They had already gotten their money.
The big
Companies,
divisiveness.
all these corporations
Finish.
had put in lots for vaccines. They're like, gimme, 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 gimme. And the companies were just like, okay, well, we've got our money. We can sort of just slack off on quality check. And so what we find in a couple of lots actually is that there were fragments of DNA, and these vaccines do have the mechanisms necessary to implement these fragments of DNA. Now, the myocarditis, it seems to me, generally that's sort of an administration problem. Like if a nurse hits a blood vessel, it's likely going to go straight to the heart. But if they're delivering it to the muscle, it's going to have the intended consequence. But we've got these manufacturing issues that are due to just sloppy quality control checks, right? Because they got their money, and so now it's just time to retain as much of that money as possible, not the public good, not the public welfare.
So the argument that we're having right now stemmed from the divisiveness claim in the question that Josh here was bringing to me. And I would argue that the divisiveness over COVID vaccines came not because of the vaccine, but because of the mandates that the government was trying to implement surrounding those vaccines. Those were divisive in a way that I think was much more natural. But in order to win the debate on mandates, etc., people cast doubt in the efficacy of the vaccine in order to leverage that to win the mandate debates. And I think that's where the bad actors came in trying to spin this as much more than it was. Look, we've always had some level of vaccine skepticism in America. It used to be on the left, right? You had the granola moms and stuff, the crunchy granola moms in the 90s and the early 2000s who were very skeptical of vaccines and things like that, the hippies, if you will. A lot of minorities were skeptical of the vaccines because of the history of medical experimentation on, their people back in the day.
Experiment?
Huh? And things like that. Yes, there's healthy skepticism about that. However, the vaccine largely today, right? COVID had none of that. The COVID vaccine had none of that Tuskegee experiment, any of that. And again, I think it was fully manufactured out of whole cloth by bad actors in order to try to win political power. Mr. Wise Guy Plays for $5 says, I think losing my sense of taste from COVID was way better than getting a chance of a random side effect. Did you lose your sense of taste from COVID? That's sad.
Yeah, that was a common side effect, partially because it was crowding out your sinuses and basically. So I've got a good friend. They got jabbed. I didn't get jabbed. They got COVID 3 times more than I did. I'm not saying that that's anything other than one data point, but it is a data point, and it just loads up your. I mean, most people at this point have had COVID or at least a bad flu. Yeah, you lose your sense of taste.
Yeah, but again, if we look at how many people have died from COVID, and we look at the rates of the vaccinated who've died and the unvaccinated who've died, I think that
let's do the adjustment.
Statistics and 200.
Let's do the adjustment for weight.
200 ARS from Real Serious says, how do they justify that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were rolled out worldwide and approved by other countries equivalents to the FDA? Also, sorry, Wick, it's chump change, but you should take it up with YouTube allowing it. Love you. Well, thank you for the 200 ARS, and it is chump change, but you know what? Whatever, right?
Wick is still grateful for it because he's a goddamn gentleman.
Now I'm curious. If you want to answer that question while I look up how much that is.
So I can pull it up later and send it to you, Wick, if you want to disseminate it. I'll send it to StreamRift as well.
Oh, it's 14 cents to be clear.
Oh, Jesus.
So the thing is that the corporations used a highly sensitive method of detecting DNA inside what would become vaccine material to get it past federal regulators. And then when it came to mass manufacturing, that's a very expensive process, so they cut back and they use something a little bit cheaper, something that doesn't pick up small fragments, about 300 base pairs. And that's significant. And I think that there are real questions to be asked about that. And Wick, what I think you're picking up on is that there are genuine grievances between people feeling like they need to do something or else. And that just feels bad. And what sucks on top of that is when somebody is listening to you, denies that it's a real thing, blames it on somebody else, or it couldn't be a real thing, and sort of just like takes the agency out of you.
Yeah, but
and
sometimes
instead sort of just demeans you for having that
But Parrot,
skepticism.
my guy, my friend, my buddy. Some opinions deserve to be demeaned. I'm going to be real. If you believe certain things, like if you believe in the flat earth, if you are a flat earther, I get to make fun of you. And I think it's a good thing that I get to make fun of you. I think you should be made fun of. I think you should be made fun of by everyone around you. I think that's a good thing, okay? So just because it makes someone feel bad because other people demean their position, right, or demean their opinion, does not tell me whether or not what's going on is good or bad. It would depend on the opinion. And I would argue that people who are anti-vaccination,
getting a vaccine.
Hold on, yeah, people who are anti-vax when it comes to the COVID vaccine deserve a little ribbing at least. Now, the argument that you might give me is that, well, that's just going to get them to raise their hackles, to put them in a corner so they bare their teeth, and they makes it less likely for them to take the vaccine. That's a fair argument to make, and we could have that argument, and I might even actually agree with you on the tactics of it. But when it comes to out the gate, we do have information on this, and people who aren't taking the vaccine or didn't take the vaccine had worse health outcomes than those who did. And that's what we know. One side was right, one side was wrong.
I mean, I wish it was
And both
that
sides
simple, more
think they're the right
confusing.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, but fair enough. You can think that, but like if I look out the side and one of us says it's raining and one of us says it's not, one of us is correct, one of us is not. But anyway,
Here's the
that-
thing.
Anyway, this is beyond the scope of what I came prepared to talk about today. I don't have the data with me, but I could set this something up for you if you like. But right now, we're going to end the show because it's 8:09 and yeah, we've gone off the rocker. I do want to thank you both for coming. I do have, again, Thursday, Thanksgiving, we're not having a show. I'm going to spend time eating turkey, and you should too.
You're going to eat birds, Parrot. How do you feel about that?
It's disgusting. It's honestly repulsive.
On Friday, we're going to have a debate on the National Guard shooting. And if you went on that, and especially if you disagree with Soy Pill that Trump is to blame for this, hit me up, and I'd love to have you. Anyway, peace out, Girl Scouts. I'll see you guys later. Wave, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Wade.